Thursday edition of PFT PM. It is June the 20th. Here are my very detailed and highly specific notes for today. Not that I even need those. There's just a few topics to get to. By the way, I have an important update. I'll tell you the story very quickly if you care, or if you don't. What am I going to do? Stop if you don't? Anyway, had a phone call yesterday from my doctor's office in Pittsburgh. Missed the call, got the voicemail. Hi, we have the results of your CT coronary calcium scan. We just wanted to go over them with you. And when I listen to the voice message, I'm thinking, does she sound happy? Does she sound like she's got some sense of dread that she's ready? So I had to do a radio spot with our friends at 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh. And as soon as that ended, I called back. Well, she was gone for the day, and the person who answered the phone didn't know anything about the results, didn't know where they were. So I said, okay, fine. I'll just carry around this angst of not knowing what the results are until today. Finally, after just a couple of rounds of phone tag, I was informed, drum roll please, that I am not dying. Excellent results for the coronary scan. I didn't expect it excellent. I was thinking maybe it'd be mid-level, watch your diet, take some cholesterol medicine. They couldn't tell me to exercise more because I already do 27 miles an hour for 1 hour solid every day that I'm home on my bike. And I think that probably has something to do with the fact that the results came back excellent. So exercise is critical. Diet is critical. Do everything in moderation. I do cigars in moderation. I do alcohol in moderation, pizza and steak in moderation, but I exercise every single day. Get a good sweat going, drenched when I'm done. Awful, stinky, nasty. So there's benefit to it. Heart is fine. Other things may not be, but heart, at least for now, is fine. The Chiefs Super Bowl ring is not fine. And we talked about this last week. I was curious to see when any of the players would actually address it. And given that Travis Kelce and his brother Jason have one of the most popular podcasts in the world, it was just a matter of time before Travis talked about it. And he poo-pooed it. What else can you do? Demand a new ring? They can't really fix it. That's one of the things about a normal typo. You just cursor, backspace, put in the right number. For a ring, it would probably be fairly detailed to obscure a 7 and turn it to a 6. For those of you who missed the story or have already forgotten, the Chiefs on the inside of their latest Super Bowl ring have the scores of their postseason games, and they included the seed of each of the teams they beat. And I think the idea was to brag a little bit about beating the 2-seed Bills, the 1-seed Ravens, and the 1-seed 49ers en route to winning their 3rd Super Bowl championship. The problem is the Dolphins were the 6th seed, but they were listed in the ring as the 7th seed. And Kelce said, I don't really care. It doesn't matter. It makes you, whatever. You say whatever you have to say when you have an outcome that isn't going to be rectified. You just have to accept it and move on. And of all the things that can go wrong in your life, I mean, think about it. The ultimate first world problem is there's a typo on the inside of my Super Bowl ring. We would all love to have that problem. We would trade places with Travis Kelce in an instant. Oh, my 3rd Super Bowl ring has a typo on the inside that no one's ever going to see anyway. So still, the whole thing is embarrassing for the Chiefs. Whoever's fingerprints were on that, I can only imagine. Now, it ultimately flows up to the owner. But before the owner looks at it, the owner approves everything with the ring. That's what I'm told. That's the general approach. There are other people who have say in it, and I would assume multiple sets of eyes look at it. When you look at everything about it, the number of diamonds here signify this, and the number of diamonds there signify this. We have the encrusted this that signifies that. To have a mistake like that on a Super Bowl ring is possibly unprecedented and definitely embarrassing. It doesn't change the fact that they won the Super Bowl, but they screwed the ring up. So it is what it is. And Travis Kelce says he doesn't care. I wonder how much of that is him just trying to convince himself that he doesn't care. Because if he could keep the 7 with the incorrect seed or the 6 with the right seed, he'd surely take the 6, unless he's just being stubborn. But that's fine. I can be stubborn as well. NFL owners can also be stubborn. This is something I caught wind of back in May, and I was waiting for the right time to write about it. Partially, I'd forget. At any given time, I've got 7 to 10, I'll get around to this at some point, stories rattling in my addled brain, and I'll wait for an opportunity or a reminder, or just it's a slow day and I think of it to put something together. Someone emailed me overnight that there's a story out there that the owners have discussed a salary cap for quarterbacks. So I went down the rabbit hole and I found that Tom Pelissero, who works for the owners, works for the NFL. I know they get upset when you say that. That doesn't make it any less true. His paycheck is signed literally by Roger Goodell. He was on Rich Eisen's show, and he said that owners have discussed the possibility of a quarterback salary cap. And the way he said it was fairly innocuous. He's not going to say anything that's remotely controversial as it relates to what his bosses do. He wants to keep his job. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's a fact. So it's all in the presentation. The way that he explained it, it implies that, like any other potential proposal that the league would make to the union, they're coming up with potential ideas and there's discussion about it. And then you have bargaining with the union at some point. You sit down across the table and you say, we'd like this, we'd like this, I'd like this, I'd like this, we'd like this, we'd like that. And you work out an agreement. And remember, even during the term of a CBA, and the current one runs through 2030, the league and the union can come to any agreement they want about anything. They can change anything and everything about the CBA whenever they want to. The only thing about the actual labor agreement, once it expires, you better have a new one to take its place, or there could be a work stoppage, lockout, or a strike, or the two sides go forward without a contract. You'll hear about that from time to time in news coverage of labor disputes. Contract expires, everybody keeps going, and they try to work out a new one. But they can come to an agreement on anything, and we've already heard talk about the union possibly putting a proposal together to revolutionize the off-season program. So the league could approach the union anytime it wants with this idea of a separate salary cap for quarterbacks. And that's not a novel concept. People have mentioned from time to time the possibility of quarterbacks having their own cap or not being part of the cap, whatever the case may be. Now, from the union's perspective, it gets awkward quickly because the union represents all players. And when you start carving out position groups, at some point, you're bolstering the idea that they should be carving out unions, and there should be a union for the running backs and a union for the quarterbacks and a union for the kickers and a union for the receivers. So I don't know if the union is going to be receptive to any proposal from the league for any type of a quarterback salary cap, but that's not the point. The way I heard it, this isn't something they're going to go to the union about. This is just something they're going to do. This is backroom collusion. Hey, guys, we're paying too much for quarterbacks. What are we going to do about that? These numbers are getting out of control. What are we going to do about it? And remember, they meet 4 times a year. D. Smith, the former executive director of the NFL Players Association, called them the collusion meetings. In what other industry do all of the businesses in that industry get together to talk business and to get on the same page and to stay on the same page? That's the thing we always have to remember. We've been talking about it a lot as it relates to the Sunday ticket trial. Antitrust. 32 distinct businesses working together under Big Shield. As it relates to the CBA, remember, the fact that it's a multi-employer bargaining unit allows the NFL to, despite the fact that it's 32 independent businesses, have joint rules as it relates to free agency, salary cap, franchise tag, draft. But beyond that, it's every team for itself, every business for itself. You're competing with the other 31 businesses within the confines of the rules that are available. Best example, 2010, the year before the lockout. That was the final year of the 2006 CBA. And every CBA since 93 had as the final year an uncapped year. The idea was to give the teams an extra incentive to get a new CBA done before the chaos of an uncapped year. Well, it later came out in 2012 or thereabouts that during the uncapped year, the teams were told, this is how we're going to handle it. And God forbid that Washington, Dallas, and I also think to a lesser extent the Raiders and the Saints dared to treat the uncapped year as uncapped, dared to take advantage of the absence of a salary cap, spent too much money in 2010, and they got whacked for it in 2012. And the league was brazen about it. They got the union to agree to it. And look, I don't want to go too far back down that road, but one of the reasons the union agreed to it, salary cap in 2012 was actually going to go down the year after the lockout. And I think some folks who were running the union at the time were concerned about their future. So the league agreed, we'll pump up the salary cap this year. And in exchange, you agree that we're going to whack Washington, Dallas, the Raiders, and the Saints for treating the uncapped year as if it were uncapped. So that's all way of background, because they're going to do whatever they want to do. And there's already a grievance pending against the teams for collusion as it relates to the refusal to give certain quarterbacks fully guaranteed contracts. That's a byproduct of the Deshaun Watson deal and the struggles that Lamar Jackson faced in trying to get a contract of his own. That grievance was submitted by the union October-ish of 2022, just months before Lamar Jackson got his contract. He didn't get a fully guaranteed contract. But that Watson deal, there were 2 or 3 owners who spoke out about the 5-year fully guaranteed contract that the Browns did. And there were reports that Browns ownership got the cold shoulder at the league meetings just days after the Watson deal was done. So it doesn't require tinfoil hats to come to the conclusion that when the owners get together 4 times a year, topics like this get discussed. And I'm told that that's been a topic. And it's not a topic along the lines of, we need to go to the union to fix this. It's more like, we need to fix it ourselves. We need to have an understanding as to how much money quarterbacks are going to be paid. So I think it makes sense to watch even more carefully who gets paid, who hits the market, what happens when they hit the market. I mean, look, if Dak Prescott goes to the market and nobody offers him any more than what the Cowboys have offered, he stays in Dallas. And if that becomes a thing, guys hit the open market and no one pursues him. It happened to Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar Jackson was restricted by the franchise tag, but do you mean to tell me you wouldn't give up 2 first-round picks to get Lamar Jackson? Nobody was interested. Nobody even brought him in for a visit. Nobody made him an offer. Nobody talked to him. And I know not having an agent was an impediment, but this is a MVP quarterback who was available to anyone who was willing to give up 2 first-round draft picks. And the better a team you are, the later you pick, the less the investment than if it's somebody who stinks and will be giving a top 5 pick this year, and who knows what it would have been the next year after 1 year with Lamar Jackson. So there's already reason to believe that there are gentlemen's agreements that would fly in the face of the CBA. This thing, and what's funny about this, funny how, is that Pelissero might have opened Pandora's box unwittingly, not understanding the ramifications of saying what he said. This is one of the dangers of speaking extemporaneously, as I have learned time and again over the years. This isn't the league putting together what it wants from the union. This is the league conspiring among the owners to put artificial, off the books, off the CBA restrictions in place for what they will be paying quarterbacks. That's where it gets interesting. If the proof as we go forward supports that. And the mere existence of the discussion kind of puts every owner on notice. Tread lightly when you're paying a lot of money to a quarterback. Don't do a 5-year fully guaranteed contract. Now, as if anybody else was ever going to do one, look at what the Browns have gotten from Deshaun Watson. That's the problem with anything more than 2 or 3 years of guaranteed salary, you are stuck. The difference between Watson and Russell Wilson, and they both did their deals the same year. Both were traded, both got new contracts. Wilson's wasn't fully guaranteed. The Broncos were able to pull the lever to break glass in event of emergency, to press the button, whatever stupid metaphor I can come up with, and get out of it. The Browns are stuck. You think if the Browns could get out of Deshaun Watson, you think they would? Do you need long to think about whether or not they would? So doing a 5-year fully guaranteed contract for a quarterback may be its own punishment. But even so, I think teams are going to be much more careful about what they pay quarterbacks. And there may be evidence that emerges circumstantially and over time to suggest that there's some sort of foul play potentially happening as it relates to quarterback contracts. Also on the issue of quarterback contracts, I was on with Rich Eisen yesterday, and he asked a question that I struggled with, mainly because anything and everything we say can and will be used against us in this business. He asked me who I think will be the first quarterback to get to $60 million per year, and we talked about that for a while. Of the guys currently up for quarterback contracts, Dak Prescott would probably be the most likely to get to 60. Maybe the Packers surprise us and Jordan Love gets to 60. They don't have an owner there who needs that extra money to pay for a super yacht or to maintain at, more than $1 million a week, the crew and the staff and all the other things that go into keeping that boat afloat. So it's easier to put money back into the team if you're the Packers. But one name that came to mind for me eventually, because Rich mentioned C.J. Stroud, and I think Stroud gets to 60, but Stroud's 2 years away. By the time Stroud's eligible for a second contract, the market's already going to be at 60. I think the market gets to 60 before the end of the 2025 regular season when Stroud is eligible. Could it be Purdy? I don't know. The name that came to me was Josh Allen. And I apologize to the Bills front office, Bills coaching staff, Bills Mafia. This gets back to the concept that we're all just rooting for laundry and we want the players to be happy even if they have reason not to be. And I get accused of stirring up trouble or something else far smellier than that. Josh Allen's underpaid. He just is. $45 million a year. And he didn't get what Patrick Mahomes got last year. He's at $45 million as well. They moved money around under his ultra long-term deal and got his cash flow up to the level of Joe Burrow for like 3 or 4 years. Allen is glaringly underpaid right now. And you just wonder when the Bills are going to rectify it. If they would, how does he not get 60? How does one of the best quarterbacks in football not get 60? Oh, you got to take a team-friendly deal. You got to try to win. Well, what have they done to win? What have they done? Let's be fair here. And I know I may end up on another video that the Bills put on their Twitter page where you've got some haters and some naysayers wondering how they're going to be at receiver this year, given that 4 of their top 5 receivers from last year are gone. That was the clip that starts the video that they used of me from PFT Live. But what have they really done with whatever cap space Josh Allen left behind? What are they doing other than blowing it on Stephon Diggs and having to rip the Band-Aid off and have a huge cap charge this year because they traded him? I'm a firm believer, as you all know, in players getting paid. The Peyton Manning approach. It's my job to get paid. It's your job to manage the salary cap. I saw last week when Tom Brady did his speech at the Jersey Retirement Hall of Fame enshrinement at New England, he jokingly apologized to his agents for doing below market deals. He should apologize to their quarterbacks who got stuck with less because Tom Brady took less. He should apologize to his teammates. I guarantee you, those players on the New England Patriots, when Tom Brady was taking less than he was worth, when they would ask for what they were worth, one of the responses was, who do you think you are? Tom Brady doesn't get what he's worth. Why do you think? Do you think you're Tom Brady? Do you think you're better than Tom Brady? That's the stuff that happens. And We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. In a weird sort of way, it is kind of cheating. It is. You're cheating yourself. You're cheating other quarterbacks. You're cheating your teammates when you, in the name of winning, got to win, got to win, got to win. How do I win? Well, take less money. Okay, I'll take less money if that means I win because I got to win. My identity is tied to winning, nothing else. I'm either a winner or I'm a loser, and I want to be a winner. And if that means making less money, fine, as long as I can be a winner. It really is crazy when you think about it. Little kid acts that way, we frown on it. Grown man acts that way, got to win at everything, got to win, got to win, got to win. Oh, yes. Oh, we admire the drive and the determination and the unwillingness to accept for anything less than the absolute best. But when the kid's 8 years old and he acts that way, we say, hey, Johnny, let the other kids have a chance. So anyway, I don't know what's right or wrong, what's good or bad. It is just an odd dynamic. And I'm a believer that there's a limited number of years that you can play football. You have zero equity. Your equity, as Micah Parsons recently said, and I'm paraphrasing, your equity is your body. And your body at some point is not going to be able to position you to get paid a lot of money. Your best play, if you're any player that is good enough, you got to be, first of all, you got to be good enough to take this position. But those who are know who they are. When you're good enough, get yours, because the machine is going to keep rolling. The owners are going to keep owning. And that comparison I always use. And I always use it, number one, because I can't think of anything else. And number two, because it's perfect. It is a giant football machine, and every part is replaceable and will be replaced. And that's how they view you, players. You're a replaceable part on a machine. And the only way you're going to get what you are owed and what you deserve is to be a squeaky ass wheel. So, Josh, time to start squeaking. Okay, one last topic, and I'm going to look at some questions here. 18 games is coming. I don't know when, but it's coming. At the latest, it'll be 2031. Could be earlier than that. Current CBA expires 2030. And the way it'll go, and this is the reason why I think the union agreed to 20 regular season games in the most recent CBA. They know what's coming. We don't want to play 18 games. Owners say we want 18 games. And if you don't agree to 18 games, we're going to lock you out. And we'll lock you out for the whole season. Because we don't care. We got our money. We don't need a season of football. We got 40 more to come. My family's got 100 more to come. Players have how many? And then think about how this would go. If the NFL shut down for a full season, the players come back who haven't played for a year. They're competing with another crop of freshly produced college players to go along with the ones from the prior year. There may be some lingering resentment for the guys who were part of the effort to not play for a year. Whoever stood firm and was most vocal, they may get targets, especially if they're making a lot of money. You can have careers derailed by this. Careers derailed, shortened, whatever. So if the owners really want 18 games and the players realize they're going to lock us out if we don't agree, they're going to agree. The question is, will they agree to it before the expiration of the CBA? And the union, I'm told, is bracing for that at any time. I know there was a report from the Washington Post a couple of months ago that it's the next 12 or 18 months. I think it can happen at any time. It is clear the league wants to do it. The question is, what can the union get in return? Bigger rosters? A bigger slice of the shared revenue pie? I mean, at a minimum, if you add another weekend of regular season games, that's more money for everybody that they share. And if you're throwing a second bye, that's another week. That's 20 total weeks of regular season football. So they'll get more money. The question is, will they get a bigger percentage? They're close to half. They're not quite at half. Bernie Mac, Bad Santa, half. Maybe they want more than half. Hey, I'd want more than half. I used to think half was fair, and it sounds fair, but half and half on the revenue, 100-0 on the equity. The players have no equity. And look at how the value of the teams keep going up and up and up. And the owners have that. They can sell that. In addition to making half of the revenue, They have all of the equity and all of the growth that goes with it when it's time to cash out. Look at the returns that some of these people have gotten. Even Daniel Snyder bought the team for less than $1 billion, sold it for more than $6 billion 25 years later. That is a hell of a return. And he made all that money along the way. That's what you have when you own a team. Do we tune in to watch the owners, or do we tune in to watch the players? And I understand that the league provides the structure and the stadiums and the arrangements and the infrastructure, but it's the players. That's why, and I'm getting way too off topic here, but the only way that the players could really have a fair fight with the owners, because the owners, if the players would strike, would bring in replacement players as they did in 1987. The players would need to have another league ready to go. We've got our own league where our players are going to play. You got to set up stadiums and TV deals, and you got all sorts of headaches and issues. You basically be creating your own league, and you might not even have to use it. That's the problem. You would spend all that time and effort setting it up as your leverage, and if you have something ready to go that looks pretty damn good, you get your deal done, and you never actually pull the pin on that grenade. So bottom line, there's a huge imbalance between league and players. And there's been criticism over the years of the deals the union has done. I was telling somebody this earlier today. It should be worse than what it's been. Because when one side, is willing to use the nuclear option and the other isn't, that throws everything out of whack. And whatever you want to say about what the union has or hasn't done by way of negotiating the past couple of CBAs, it should be a lot worse, because the owners are in a position to really put the players under their thumbs, because the owners will shut it down for a year. The players won't. That's why we're going to get to 18 games. And I think it's coming. And I think as a practical matter, the best time to do it is when the current TV deals expire, because the league pulls the plug on them 4 years early after the 2029 season. So I think as of 2030, that's probably when it happens. Maybe it even comes before that. We'll see. But the union is braced for the push to 18 to come. All right, let's answer some questions. What do we got here? Scrolling. All right. There is a question from Jordan Davey about the potential quarterback salary cap. Could this be closer to cap percentage type deals or even fully guaranteed contracts? Look, this isn't going to be anything good for the players. This is going to be, as I said earlier, the owners rigging the system even more in their favor. Because I've been saying for years, the best way to pay a player on a long-term contract is a percentage of the cap. Then the player is protected against the deal becoming obsolete, because as the cap goes up, the money goes up. And the league has consistently pushed against that. That tells you this talk of a quarterback salary cap is not about going to the table and having a formula with specific percentages that get given to quarterbacks. This is about the owners among themselves doing this on their own. PFT PM Posse, what do you know about the Battle of Blair Mountain and the coal wars in West Virginia during the early 1900s? Did you hear firsthand accounts of it growing up? What's the general feeling in West Virginia in modern times? And yes, it's the NFL slow period. I grew up in West Virginia, geographically, is probably one of the strangest states in the country, because you look at the border, you look at all the different states that we touch, and I'm not going to try to list them all because I'm probably going to forget one, but Ohio, here I go doing it. Ohio, Kentucky, probably a little bit on Tennessee, Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania. And where I grew up in Wheeling, Northern Panhandle. Only reason the Northern Panhandle of West Virginia exists is because Mason and Dixon, while they were making that line that was supposed to go to the Ohio River, they hit hostile Native Americans and they said, the hell with that, we're going north. And that carved out the Panhandle. Otherwise, I would have grown up in Pennsylvania. As you get south of really where we are here, that's when it becomes more of the coal fields and the Hatfields and the McCoys. That's really farther south. So I don't know anything about it. To answer your question, I don't know anything about it. And then the Eastern Panhandle is a different world altogether. It's like a suburb of DC. It makes for strange loyalties and allegiances, because northern part of the state, even though we hate Pitt, eat shit Pitt, as the saying goes, we love, or we're supposed to love, I didn't get the memo, at least not as to the Steelers. I loved the Penguins and the Pirates growing up, but the Pittsburgh professional teams, yes. College teams, no. Then you get in the Eastern Panhandle, it's Washington. You go down to the southern part of the state, it's Cincinnati. I suspect there's some Titans fans when you get farther down south. So it's just kind of a strange amalgamation of different types of people and different communities and different ways of living, and it's all kind of thrown together in one state. And back to the question, I don't know. All right. Manuel Villa has a very important question here, and he says it's a genuine question, which is good to know. Otherwise, I wouldn't have answered it. How much longer do you plan on doing what you are doing? PFT has become such a part of my morning/daily life. It would feel like a huge hole would be missing from it. I don't know what that says about me. Yeah, well, thank you. That's what we're looking for. We're nothing if we don't have people who want to read what we write, listen to what we say. So we love the audience. The fact that you see fit to listen to and read anything I have to say sets you apart. It may be a diagnosable personality disorder, but it still sets you apart. So we appreciate everyone out there because it allows me to do what I'm doing, not have a real job, and, enjoy life from that perspective, because it's 15 years now, as of July 1. That's the 15-year anniversary of when we joined NBC, and it's been great. And my wife has asked me this from time to time, how much longer are you going to do what you're doing? It's like, well, what do I really do? What would I do? That's what I always come back to. If I wasn't doing this, what would I do? Right now, what would I be doing? At 1:40 p.m. on Thursday, June 20th, what would I be doing? Maybe reading a book, maybe playing pinball machine, maybe down in the barn smoking a cigar. I mean, those are all things I'll do anyway. You can't fill your day with your leisure activities. You got to do something productive in order to have true sense of purpose. So, long story bearable, I'm going to die with my boots on. I'm not stopping. Now, NBC may close the door on me like Michael Scott with Robert Dunder, but I own PFT. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. If I have to go back to PFT being an independent operation and we sell ads or look for some other partner, again, I don't want that to happen. We got 3 years on our NBC deal. I got no reason to think it won't continue. Now, if NBC at some point would lose the NFL, that raises a complication that would have to be addressed. But I plan on doing what I do the same way I've done it for 23 years now, as of November 1. So this ties back to what I said at the top of the show. Heart is fine. Rest of me may not be, but I plan to keep on going as long as I am physically capable of doing it, because what else would I do? And I'll be candid with you. I'm probably being too candid, but nobody's listening to this. I really love writing, and I've been doing it for 4 years now. Between Playmakers, which was nonfiction and published by Public Affairs and imprint of Hachette, I've written Father of Mine, the upcoming sequel, Son of Mine. I mentioned that on X last night. That's September 3rd. September 3rd is the release date for that. On Our Way Home, Christmas novel that I wrote in December of 2021, and it has a lot of meaning to me personally. I enjoyed the process, and I'll be talking about it more as Christmas approaches. I've got others that are done. My agent is currently shopping one to potentially interested publishers about the NFL and gambling and the mob, and it's been written. I don't have to worry about the cease and desist letter because the NFL acronym is never used. There's no team names ever used. North Dallas 40 was my guide in that respect. It's just cities and states. It's not team names. It's not anyone real. But the goal is to basically get the NFL's attention about what could happen with gambling if they're not careful. And it's a cautionary tale, and it's mob related, and it's NFL, not NFL related. I got to work on that. Not NFL related. So that is coming. I have another one that's kind of floating out there. We're waiting for the right time to make a move on it. It reimagines a prison escape from the West Virginia Penitentiary in November of 1979. I've called it the old movie Stand By Me on meth or crack or both. I love that one. I love that one. My former agent said it's too dark. I don't think it's too dark. I think it's really good. That one's out there. I've got 2 others that are basically done. I've got another one I'm working on. I've got another one that I kind of put on the back burner that could come back at some point. I always have new ideas. So my point is, I kind of like to do that all the time. But if I was doing it all the time, how much more could I create? I've written 8 of them in 4 years on a part-time basis. I've still checked every box and done everything that I have to do professionally. But when I get a couple hours here or a couple hours there, instead of playing video games or watching TV or watching a movie or reading a book, I pop open the laptop and I start going. And the fact that I've been doing this for 23 years and that I can write quickly and think quickly and articulate my thoughts. And, I can write 1,500 words an hour. And if you do the math, it doesn't take that long to write a book. If you can do 1,500 words an hour, the challenge is finding enough hours. And I'm concerned that, because there's only certain circumstances where the writing process works for me. When it works great. But I need to be in the barn or sitting outside on the patio. Ideally, lighting a cigar just kind of sparks the process for me. So I don't smoke one every single day. So it's maybe 3 or 4 times a week that I'm even in the mode or the mood or the position to try to even do it. But so if I had all the time to do it, it's not like I would spend 10 hours a day doing it. So I've achieved, it may not be healthy, but for me, it's a balance of I can do everything I do for PFT and NBC, and I'll steal 2 hours or 3 hours here or there to work on fiction projects. And I plan on continuing that as long as I can, as long as my fingers work, as long as my brain functions, as long as my eyes can actually, see and process and everything that goes along with it. You're stuck with me indefinitely. Although indefinitely definitely can have a limitation. Hell, I'm going to go to the grocery store at some point today. Who knows? The proverbial bus might hit me. So we all have to be ready for that at any given time. On that happy note, here's another question about, this is curb your analytics. I like that. I see the owners have been discussing a possible off-the-books quarterback salary cap. Do you think the NFL is going to investigate this? Is it possible that a quarterback could sue the NFL if they feel they got ripped off because of this? Perhaps Tua if he doesn't get top market. Here's what would happen. The league wouldn't investigate it because the league's doing it. The union would have to investigate it. And then the question becomes, would there be a grievance at some point? There's no lawsuit to be filed. You file a grievance alleging collusion. And there's something in the CBA that under certain circumstances, the union can actually try to pull the plug on the labor deal if it wants to, based upon existence of collusion. So it's not easy to prove. It's easy to suspect. It's not easy to prove. So that would be the device if that ultimately happens. Jack's from the land. The NFC seems to have a different front runner every season recently. Who's going to be the next hot team? It feels like it's the Lions this year. Last year, the Lions were kind of in that mode with the 49ers. It feels like it's the Lions and then maybe the 49ers this year. That's just visceral from my perspective, not based on betting odds or anything like that. I feel like the Lions are like, this is it for them, that this is the peak and the next logical step is for them to get to the Super Bowl, but who knows? The Eagles, I think, will be a lot better than last year. The 49ers, as I mentioned, they'll continue to be the 49ers. The Rams may have some fight in them this year. The Buccaneers, they still have a chip on their shoulder because even though they won the division last year, nobody seems to care, and they managed to keep most of the team together. The Packers could be a lot better. So I don't think there's one clear team. That's the great thing about the NFL right now. There really aren't great, clear, obvious choices. And even the Chiefs, who've won 3 Super Bowls, it's not like they blow everybody out. I've said this multiple times recently. They make every game, every playoff game, especially interesting. Every Super Bowl, they're done. And they do the Undertaker thing and come back and win. Jeremy Dodd, when you actually go on vacation, will you actually relax and forget football for a week? No. Next question. It's what I do. It's just what I am. It becomes who you are. And I've been following the NFL for 50 years. I was doing it for free for a long time. I worked on the website for free for many years. I can't imagine shutting it down for a full week. I can't imagine shutting it down for a day. That's the one New Year's resolution I ever honored. January 1, 2004. If this thing's ever going to become what it has a chance to be. I got to work on it every single day. And I have worked on it every single day since then. 20 years and almost 6 months later, here we are. Okay. At King 36, what do you think the maximum amount of regular season games for an NFL season will be in our lifetime? Is 20 possible? 20 is inevitable. It's just a question of when. Might not be in my lifetime, might be in yours, depending upon how old you are. But I think what was 14-6 regular season preseason became 16-4, became 17-3, will become 18-2, will become 19-1, will become 20-0. I guarantee you that's going to happen at some point. I don't want to put a timeline on it, but at some point that's going to happen. By not putting a timeline on it, I'm never be wrong. By the time anyone can say, hey, that guy was wrong, the more appropriate question will be, who was that? All right. Let's see what else we have here. Got to scroll through these. Time to wrap it up. I'm going longer than I wanted to today. There's some good ones here. John Ardell, why do some judges keep the courtroom closed only to make everything that took place public later? What purpose does it serve? And this may have something to do with the Sunday ticket trial. We've seen other high-profile trials recently. There's media access. Only in rare circumstances is a court proceeding shut off from public view, usually when it involves juvenile, sensitive material like that. That's when the courtroom is closed, and I don't think there are any public announcements or releases of what happens. The Sunday ticket trial is open to the public. The other high-profile trials we've seen in the political realm in recent weeks, open to the public. Now, you got to get your seat, and a lot of the reporters were actually in an overflow room watching it on closed-circuit TV, but still, it's open. The courtroom is open. A lot of these old courtrooms that you'll see in TVs and movies with like a second deck with all the seats there, that's what people used to do. Before there was radio and TV, like some of the old courthouses here in West Virginia have these grandiose with the chairs going all the way back like the theater. It was all people had to do. We're going to go watch the trials today. You have nothing you can watch on TV. You have nothing you can listen to on the radio. It's real life drama playing out. You're going to go watch the trials. So all courtroom proceedings are supposed to be open. Under certain specific and relatively rare instances, the courtroom is closed. On that note, I should probably close this courtroom until tomorrow. I'll do it again Friday. We'll go 5 for 5 for week 1 of the PFT Live hiatus. We will be posting content around the clock at profootballtalk.com. Thanks as always for your questions. If I didn't get to your question today, ask it again tomorrow and we'll try to get to it. If I don't get it tomorrow, ask it again next week. And eventually, hopefully, I'll get to it. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.